When I was in college, I guess it was my sophomore year, I was a political science major to start with. And the most interesting thing I learned during that year was that recent information, which is, when was that? 1974, which is 10 years, 9 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. We had just learned that at the time, everybody was ducking and covering and worrying about getting blown up by intercontinental ballistic missiles, which the Russians tried to prove they had by putting Sputnik up, a little ball satellite that made, all it did was beep, beep, and go into orbit around the Earth. That was their signal that they had ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that could strike us from Russia. And so we were positive that the nuclear threat was imminent. We thought they had a gun to our head. Now, we had ICBMs too, but of course you don't want to start one of those wars because too many people die. When that happened, so 5 years later after Sputnik, maybe 4 years later after Sputnik, Khrushchev started sending boats to Cuba, 90 miles off the coast of Florida, and started installing short-range missiles that could carry nuclear warheads. That's what the whole Cuban Missile Crisis was about. We were all scared to death. We thought we were on the brink of war, nuclear war. There's some great movies out there all about it. I think one of them's called 13 Days. You can learn all about it. It's fascinating. But what we learned 9 years later was they didn't really have the missiles to hit us from Russia. There was no nuclear threat. They never spent the money. They spent enough money to make a couple of rockets where they could put Sputnik up, but they were a poor country and they didn't spend the money to create all the intercontinental ballistic missiles that we thought they had. And I think they actually went to some lengths to create fake ones, much like we did in England to show fake armies right before D-Day to make Nazi Germany think that we were coming from a different angle. So all that stress about the potential for nuclear war was unnecessary because we didn't have the intelligence to know, and by intelligence I mean intelligence resources, spies, or photographs, or people on the ground. We didn't know that they didn't have the missiles to hit us. We didn't know that we were safe. We went through all kinds of contortions trying to keep from having a nuclear war that wouldn't have happened. As a matter of fact, we had built all those missiles. We had it. We could have made them do anything if we'd have known that they didn't have an offsetting power. And that's why Khrushchev wanted to put them in Cuba and get close to us, is because that was the only way he could have had a real threat. And as a matter of fact, after he backed down and he got embarrassed basically by us putting a blockade in and say, you take those missiles out or we're going to do something bad to you, he got removed from office. And then about 5 years later, Brezhnev and Kosygin came in as joint presidents or premiers, leaders. They didn't trust one or the other, but pretty soon Brezhnev got rid of Kosygin. That's the way it goes over there. whoever got the power gets rid of the second man because he doesn't like the threat. But anyway, that's what happened. And then Brezhnev spent the money. And after a few years, they had intercontinental ballistic missiles that were nuclear capable. And then the threat was real. One last note. We did learn from the intelligence we had that their failure rate on their missiles, whenever they tried to shoot one off as a test, was 90%. 9 out of 10 times they tried to shoot a missile off, it didn't work. So it seems like we're still pretty safe. And it's been, 50 years now? And I bet they've not done a lot of maintenance on them. I bet that they haven't kept them in tip-top shape. And so I'm guessing that the failure rate would be way beyond 90% now. See you later.